Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. So today's video is actually going to be speaking a lot about the Traitor Gene seed. Specifically, a part of the video is dedicated to the Iron Warrior Gene seed, which is completely bizarre for me talking about Iron Warriors. I know dawn and dawn through, but it is a really good talking point to get across, because there's been some debate that can a Traitor Gene seed become a Loyalist chapter? Is there anything wrong with putting that gene seed and it's serving the Imperium of mankind? Now, we've had certain debates in the lore with this between Guilliman and Call itself. Call actually stating towards Guilliman that there's actually nothing wrong with a Traitor Gene seed. It's not bad in any way. The reason that it's looked down on is because these legions obviously turned against the Emperor, but that was because the people who led them, the Primarchs, did that. They made that decision. It wasn't down to the actual gene seed itself. So let's jump in and let's have a little talk about this. Now, we all know during the Horus Heresy there were people who came from traitor legions who were still loyalist to the ideas of the Emperor, to the Emperor himself, everything what the Great Crusade stood for. One of these people, specifically from the Iron Warriors, was Dantiok. Dantiok is probably one of my favourite characters. Yes, I'm a huge Imperial Fist fan, but Dantiok was one of these people which I highly respected. I remember that he held a fortress, I think it was for like a couple of years during the Horus Heresy, and when the Iron Warriors finally breached it, he basically exploded it and dropped it into lava and killed all the attacking Iron Warriors. So someone like who does that kind of stuff will always have my type of respect. Plus, he formed one of the greatest bromances I've ever read in the Horus Heresy, with of course none other than Alexis Pollux and Imperial Fist. Those two together could conquer absolutely any world, and it always makes you think, like, if the Iron Warriors and the Imperial Fist weren't at each other's throats, what could they accomplish together? Imagine the wonders they could build and fortify. And I don't think any force in the galaxy could stop these two legions if they just became friends. Now, before we get into the whole Primaris gene seed stuff and the talking points that has, the actual discussion goes back before they even came along, and one of the reasons I'm really doing this video is because of this little extract which got sent to me while I was away on my weekend. Now, this is from a chap called Edwin Brown. Now, for those of you who don't know who Edwin Brown is, he was one of the developers who actually created the Badab War series for the Forge World stuff, all the things that, you know, we saw, like the Astral Claws, the Executioners, of course the Minotaurs, and the Space Sharks were involved. There was other chapters involved. It was an amazing series. There's so much fluff and lore around it. It's an absolutely fantastic read. I really hope that Black Library themselves do a book series around it, like a proper book series, much like we got with the Beast Arises series, but more like, you know, dedicated to the Badab War, because I think it would make for some fantastic storytelling, because there's just so much that that goes on with that. So Edwin Brown stated back in 2015, this is how far this goes back, so this is like 5 years ago, and the Minotaurs, as updated in the Forge World Badab War books, are indeed created from the Iron Warrior gene seed. They are also not necessarily the same Minotaurs as the Cursed Founding chapter. You can take this to the bank, he states. He goes on to say, Brazen Minotaurs, White Minotaurs, Taurens are all different chapters too, but if you want a definite fluff backup, the Minotaurs are quoted in Imperial Armor 10 as cold, malign, paranoid masters of siegecraft who most commonly deploy as while a chapter to overwhelm their foe regardless of the cost. He goes into more information, says Imperial Armor 10 is very clear about the Curse Founding Berserker Minotaurs not necessarily being the same chapter that fought in the Badab War, but of course Imperial records aren't necessarily accurate, nor will you find it definitely written down that the Minotaurs are descended from the 4th Legion. Alan Bly is a lot more subtle than most, but the clues are all there. But the fluff is big enough for your own interpretation. All he added in Imperial Armor 10 is that 12 Minotaurs fluff features many elements of army lists, and the playtest games he and I played and the characters I suggested as part of the conversation was a gene seed are from the Iron Warriors. That's pretty obscured. All corrected, they are gene seed descendants from the Iron Warriors. That's what he messed up there. So from his standpoint, they are from the Iron Warriors. Now, of course, he mentioned Alan Bligh in there. Sadly, Alan Bligh's passed and stuff. So since then, I think it was more or less like kept on the kind of down low where they just kind of hinted to it. But the guy who was part of this, from his standpoint, is that the Minotaurs were indeed from some kind of formation from them actually used the Iron Warrior gene seed. Again, the Imperial records and how that's lost and how that came to happen, we'll probably never know why. Maybe GW will explore that in some other time. But I think it's really, really cool that you have something like this, because I think it adds a lot more character to the actual chapter itself, the lore itself, and the whole interaction. If anyone absolutely learned if these chaps came from a traitor force. Now, if we move on to the lore that we actually have at the moment and the interactions and talking about Traitor Gene Seed and how it can be used, and this is discussed by two of the main characters on the Imperium side. When I say two main characters, it's basically the people at the top of the pyramid, so to say. So you have Belisarius Cawl, who basically is behind everything Primaris wise. He's making all the new tech and stuff. You know, we all know who Cawl is, and of course Rebooted Guilliman, who is basically the de facto emperor of the Imperium now. Of course, he's not the emperor, but he's more or less what Guilliman says goes now. Unless you're a custodian, or maybe the Inquisition will say piss off or something like that. But basically, he runs the Imperium now. The conversation that Cawl had, I can't really say Cawl had. Cawl installed like this AI kind of robot that petitions Guilliman a bunch of things, and one of the petitions was to use Traitor Gene Seed to start using, start creating, more Primaris chapters from the Traitor Gene Seed, because some of the bonuses or some of the Gene Seed from the Traitors stuff is actually beneficial to the Imperium. It can actually help them assist them. And Guilliman's stance on this was absolutely no way. We are not doing this. And the conversation turned, well, you're being kind of hypocritical, because there's been sons of your gene seed that have fallen to chaos. So are you saying that we shouldn't use any of the Ultramarine gene seed to create anything because your sons fell? Does that mean, all your gene seed is corrupted and stuff? And Guilliman was like, shut the hell up and all that kind of stuff. But I think Guilliman's more stance was that if we start using the Traitor Gene Seed, the friction that could cause upon the Imperium could really turn out to be a greater threat than anything else. Because at the end of the day, you don't really want an Emperor's Children-esque type of chapter who we know actually come from the Emperor's Children, turning up and, hey, Iron Hands, can we come and assist you? I don't think it would go down too well with them. And again, you can have that for the Imperial Fist. All these chapters that had this kind of back and forth during them, that haven't forgot these grievances, let's say, and everything that happened, all the bad blood between them, for that gene seed to show up on that battlefield, even though it's helping them, and it's in the Imperium's name. Some of the chapters just hold grudges. They're like, no, and they'll probably start firing at each other and start killing each other rather than helping the Imperium or slaying the actual enemy that is on the battlefield. They'll just turn the guns on each other just because Space Marines holds these kind of stupid grudges against each other, and they never let the past go. So I can kind of understand from Guilliman's point of view why he doesn't want to do that, but on the whole, as helping the Imperium, I think it could be really, really beneficial to start using this type of gene seed to start helping pushing the Imperium forward and start creating these new chapters. One of the things to note about this is that actually in the story where Guilliman and Cawl actually do this, Guilliman actually says to himself, if Cawl actually wanted to do this, if Cawl wanted to actually start, putting the Traitor Gene Seed out there, then Guilliman wouldn't be able to stop him. It'd be out of his hands. It's entirely what Cawl wants to do at this stage, which was a kind of a weird one, because I always thought like Rebooted is like the de facto leader, and for Cawl to basically, well, I'm not in no way saying that Cawl's done this at all. Again, we'll get onto that in a second, and with a certain chapter. But Guilliman's standpoint was that if he wants to do it, then there's nothing for me to actually stop that. So maybe in a way, maybe Cawl's kind of done that already, and he was just testing the water. One of the theories that we've actually seen already, and I personally don't believe this, but I know a lot of people do because how different they look from other chapters is Sons of the Phoenix. For those of you who don't know who Sons of the Phoenix are, they are descendant from the Dawnian gene seed, so they had a Rogel Dawn chapter. They come from Dawn, their Imperial Fist successor chapter. Now, they were an Ultima founding chapter, and if you're looking at the video now, you can kind of see where a lot of people's eyebrows raise, because a lot of people think that these chaps are Fulgrim's boys. They are quite flamboyant, let's say. Their armor is very, very bright. One arm is pink, you know, the whole Emperor's Children, purpley pink and stuff like that, you can argue. Candles, and as I said, flamboyant. The way they go around and stuff, they're very kind of holy, chanting warriors, and they really put that appearance out there to, like, well, I won't say dazzle, but on the battlefield or themselves, how they interact, it's not very Dawnian, let's say. Like, Dawn's boys are very stubborn, stoic, keep themselves to themselves, get in, get the job done, and get out of there. These boys are a complete opposite. Now, maybe it's just the way that they want to do things. Maybe they're like, no, we're sick of being perceived like this. You know, we actually want to change the way up. And it's always nice to have different chapters have different personalities and stuff, because that way you can still be loyal to Dawn, let's say, and also have a chapter maybe that reflects your personality, where you are like kind of, you know, out there, and you want to like, look how fabulous I look. You know, maybe don't want to be like a boring kind of keep yourself to yourself Dawnian boy, and you want to be one of these boys. So I can kind of see, like, from a lore standpoint from that, but with a lot of people saying, no, these boys are definitely not Dawnian. Maybe this is the first case of Call actually implementing Gene Seed into a Loyalist chapter and hiding it under the disguise as another Primarch. I think the only way we'll have to find out is, you know, if they test the Gene Seed itself and to see if it actually comes from Dawn's boys. I know we've had that in the past with the Soul Drinkers, where they got tested and their Gene Seed wasn't from Rogel Dawn, but then again, at the start when they got founded, it was from Dawn, so maybe it came from another chapter along the lines and got mixed up somewhere. Again, that's another story for another time, but this really now is the only way to check if these chapters actually belong to the Gene Sires that they say they're from, if you test it. And I don't think they'd take too kindly for outside sources to come in and say, right, we're testing all your gene stock to see if you actually are from such and such. I don't think any chapter would open up their gene vaults or just let anyone walk in to do this at all. Alright, Chaperonios, that is me done for another video. Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. As always, I would love to get your thoughts and feedback on this. Do you think there's other chapters out there who are definitely not from a Loyalist gene seed? I know there's a ton of fan-made stuff, which I love reading about, by the way. I love seeing, like, Loyalist World Eaters and stuff like that, and like people's chapters they've made, especially with the Ultima founding and stuff. I think it's really broadened everyone's mindset on what you can actually create now and stuff, and I think that's always a good thing, because it lets people's minds run free, and that's what this hobby is all about. It's about just, you know, just creating something that's awesome, that you like, and it's just, yeah, it's just amazing. Right, that's me done. Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, and bye-bye.